Hello everyone. We're going to do the tutorial one. I'm going to discuss tutorial one. So if you scroll down on Moodle, there is the second lesson. There's the second lesson stuff, tutorial one. It will tell you to refer to the previous material. Yeah, it does tell you to refer to the previous material. Yeah, some Excel files from last semester. So what have we got? Oh, well, it's just a basic discussion first of how to summarize data sets. Then what? It tells you to work on at the end of the first lesson, so it's above the second lesson, end of the first lesson, there's some Excel 365 formulas. Do use something from outlook.com to open that. Yeah, so use the email app from outlook.com. I'll discuss that. That's guaranteed to open it. What else? There's some sample week 6 test questions in the document. Yes, there's some sample week 6 test questions. And then if you have time, go through the computing assignment. So the first part of the tute is just discussing that you can use YouTube to understand things. There's a video there, but it's just summarizing a data set. Like there's 2 ones. You have a list there. There's 2 ones. There's 5 twos. So there's a video. You can skip to the end of the video. You can skip to the end of the video. Things should make sense. This is something you don't need a textbook for. There's lots of different numbers here. Like the numbers are between, maybe it's a test mark or something. You've got a long list of numbers between 4 and 86. So you're summarizing, you are putting into little groups. You are putting into groups and you're just counting. Frequency is how many. It should be obvious if you go through. If you skip to the end, I'm encouraging you to skip to the end. It should be self-explanatory. You're summarizing lists of data. If you see the list and the summary, it should be self-explanatory. The next thing we're doing is using Excel 365 commands. The next thing we're doing is at the end of the first lesson, there's some Excel files. Some have Excel 365, some don't. The features of Excel 365 I want to use are in an email app from outlook.com. So create a free email from outlook.com. I've already done that. Yeah, from outlook.com, you can make a free email account. So that can use the super good latest version of Excel. If you go to some Excel files, some have Excel 365 and some don't. Yeah, and there's videos discussing what I'm discussing now. But there's the rental property, but there's rents and bedrooms and flat or house. The simplest one to study is bedroom, so we'll do that first. So there, we can download that file. The thing is, you want to email that to yourself. You do want to email yourself to your free email account. Yeah, email yourself. If you've already got an outlook.com account, that's great. So email yourself that little file. So that would be downloads, I suppose. The bedrooms. Attach copy. So you can edit that in your browser. You can edit that in your browser. So I did it before. My computer seems slow for some reason. You can edit the Excel file in your browser. Yeah, you can. So this is a web page. So this works on Macs or whatever, any device with a web page, any device that can open web pages. You can create an Outlook.com and use the web browser to use Excel. So here's the data set, and the problem is it's too big. The problem with the data set is it's too big. Yeah, the problem with the data set is it's too big. Zoom out a bit. Yeah, the browser, you sort of need to zoom out the browser and then zoom in on the Excel file. Okay, so you've got this big data set of bedrooms, 100,000 things. I'm only select because that's easier. I used a filter. I only picked 2 and 3 bedroom houses. I got New South Wales, but I randomly picked things from actual properties in New South Wales, but I only picked 2 or 3 bedrooms to make it really easy. So this variable is really simple. It's either 2 or it's 3. This variable is really simple. The R9 to 100,008, and be careful, that is 100,000 things. Like, yeah. Well, 9 to 18 is, if you actually count it, there is 10 things there. There are 100,000 things in bedrooms. So I'm doing all this stuff to the bedrooms. I'm doing all this stuff to the bedrooms to R9, 100,008. And I'm doing the count. But to understand things, what I suggest you do is use it is discussed in the instructions. Yeah, so we're using Outlook.com to make sure we can open the file. That's the sort of really safe way you can use Excel 365. There's other ways, but the sort of guarantee way is using Outlook.com. But I'm having very serious problems here. You use Control-Shift down arrow. Yeah, you use the Control-Shift, Control down arrow and Control-Shift down arrow to navigate. Control-Shift and down arrow can highlight all values. Because what I can do, so I can go down here. Might as well get the whole data set. I'll get this data set. I can delete and shift cells up. Yeah. So now everything's changed. I'm looking at R9 to R12. And so this will work. Yeah, there's 3 2s and 1 3. There's I and XI. Yeah, there's I and XI. I means sorted in a list. Yeah, so all the little properties work. So that's the beauty of dynamic array formulas. You can make adjustments. So you can make it really small to understand what's going on. Yeah, there's 3 2s and 1 3, and that's what's going on here. There's 3 2s and 1 3. You don't have to learn these commands, but they're pretty quick. What I'd give you is you'd fill in the blanks. What I'd give you, please look at past exams, but the questions I ask, fill in the blanks. So what else do we have? We've got, if we go back to Moodle, there's another. And notice the video I just discussed, that is on Moodle. Yeah, so the video is on Moodle discussing that. So the next one is the rents. The next one is the Excel file with rents. So download that, then go to your web browser. Just email yourself that file. Yeah, email yourself that file. I suppose it might. Yeah. So let's get that little Excel file up. So if it's slow, use send items. There you go. If it's slow to actually, it shouldn't be that way. But yeah, you can edit in browser. You can edit in the browser. But this is rents. This is more complicated. There's a lot more options. There's a lot more options, and you probably want to zoom in a bit. Okay. So for rents, it was much harder than the other one. The other one was bedrooms. That was either 2 or 3. This one was harder. Yeah, rent, there's a lot more possibilities. So yeah, for the rents, there's 8. Yeah, you've got 100,000 things here. You do have a list of 100,000 things. And what I suggest you do, and it is discussed in the tutorial, is use the control down and control shift down. So I'm already summarizing this with all sorts of formulas. But just to simplify it, you can make it a much smaller, yeah, you can make it a much smaller data set. So I might go down here, control shift down arrow. Delete and shift cells up. Because what will that do? That will adjust all the commands. It was going to 100,003, now it's going to 13. And really be careful, R9 to R13. I know 9 minus 13 is 4, but you're starting at 13. Sorry, you're starting at 99. So there's the rents. The lowest rent is 380. The second lowest rent is 415. So that's what this is. This is a sorted list. We do like sorted lists. Well, it gets more important when there's lots of different options. So we have a sorted list. We have the little sorted list. And the frequency distribution, like there's just one of each number. So you prefer to round to multiples of 200. So you do have to know that command. That does round to a multiple. So I'm dividing by R7, timesing by R7, but I'm doing something else. I'm dividing by R7 times by R7, R7 is 200. But I'm also using the round feature, rounding to 0 decimal places. That does actually work. It rounds to the multiples of 200. Yeah, the multiples of 200 to 0, 200, 400, 600, etc. So 850 is between 800 and 1,000, but it's closer to 800. 595 is between 400 and 600, but it's obviously closer to 600. Yeah, so if you group the data, you have two 600s and two 400s. So you don't have to learn the Excel commands, but I might give you a table. Well, please look at the sample exams. I give you a table and you fill in the blanks. Yeah. Cumulative frequency is how many or less. Yeah, 5 have 800 or less, 4 have 600 or less, 2 have 400 or less. You can work out the CF column given the F column, and you can work out the F column given the CF column. And then there's the other issue of using ogives. We can just go Control Z. We can go back to the original data set. Yeah, if we go halfway, yeah, if we get the index and the rows is U11, half of that is the 50,000 term. So the halfway number is 475. So that, yeah, halfway is 475. So you will be given, pictures like this in assessments. Yeah, you do have to understand that there's a connection between the rent and what an index number is. If it's halfway on an ogive, it's halfway on the list. If you see an ogive, the Y value tells its position in the list. So 475 has a Y value of half, so it's halfway down the list. Technically, it's the median. Median's the middle number. Well, median, if you really want to be a nerd about it, it's between the 50,000s and the 50,001 term, but it's all the same anyway. I think, don't worry about it. It's just the Y value, yeah. That 0.5 there, does tell you, the 0.5 there does tell you the position on the ogive. I suppose we can play around with that. Let's play around with that. It's a bit fiddly in Excel. So instead of going 20% of the way, 50% of the way, let's go 20% of the way. So you do have to change it there. I'm just, the formula text, I'm just putting the each little formula there has got the little formula text next to it. I just like displaying the formulas. So here we're going 20% of the way. Here we're going 20% of the way down the list, so that would be what's called X. 20,000, because you're going 20% of the way. Yeah, you're going 20% of the way. And so yeah, on the list, if you go 20% of the way, you get 350. 20% of the way, you get 350. So let's just show you this one so we can see it. Yeah, so the bounds, the major, so this is horrible. It's just hard to see the thing. So I do have to zoom up a fair bit. Right, so that it's just hard to see on the screen. But we've got this x-axis. We right click that, we format that. Okay, so it's just hard to see the format that. Okay, so it's just really hard. I can't zoom in, unfortunately, but I can change the major units to 350. Well, I'll try zooming in now. So I'll just have to try this. Yeah, so what did I did format. Oh, okay. So it's just going to be a bit messy to see on the screen. So it's the horizontal axis, then 350. So I'll just try to do that again. So I right click, format, horizontal axis. I do have to scroll down to the major units, it's 350. So we do 350 at a time, because you can change the axis, and now if we zoom out again, now if we zoom out again, we can see at 350, one we'd have to change this axis. If we go format the axis, vertical axis, the major units. Yeah, so we can see 20%. The ogive is actually showing us our index number. 20% of the way is 350. 20% of the way is 350. 700 seems to be about 80% of the way. Well, I'm guessing it's 0.82. I'm guessing. Let's just try this. Guessing 82. Yeah, it is 700. Whereas if we go 0.8, because it's slightly above the line, but 675 is that 80% way. It's a bit less than 700. I suppose we can format axis if you want to zoom in. Yeah, horizontal axis, 675. Yeah, so it is at 80% of the way, basically. It is at 80% of the way. So the rest of the tutorial, is practicing sample exam questions. Yeah, the rest of the tutorial is practicing questions like the week 6 test you're doing in the lecture. So yeah, I think just hopefully they should be fairly obvious, so try them yourself. Now, if you have time, there's the computing assignment section on Moodle. It's got summarizers if you have time looking at that. There's videos for that. And for what I was just doing, there were videos in that link there. There are videos explaining how to use Excel 365. So playing around with things. And if you have lots and lots of time, there's pivot tables. That's got other advantages. Well, that's how to do it without Excel 365. So we do want actually the basics. Well, pivot tables do some things really well. Excel 365 do some things ridiculously super fast, but they don't do everything super fast. So we'll discuss different types of Excel things. So that's the sort of additional thing at the end, but that's a low priority at this stage. Anyway, thank you.